The IMF reports that trade barriers in the developing world are 4 times larger than those in developed countries. Indeed, the World Bank finds that 70% of tariffs paid by developing countries go to other developing countries. As a leading voice of the developing world in global trade talks, India would strike the biggest blow against poverty by helping to conclude an agreement that eliminates trade-distorting policies in all countries, whether they are currently rich or poor. And the faster the pace of trade liberalization, the better. Doggedly holding on to protectionist trade policies for as long as possible only holds off development for as long as possible. Freer trade would bring much-needed investment for infrastructure and other development and promote India's diversification out of less competitive sectors. Freer trade would bring India's consumers a wider variety of cheaper products, helping them to stretch incomes further than before. Freer trade would promote greater efficiency and productivity, advance longer-term economic growth, and critically help allocate the wealth and opportunities generated from that growth across more of India's workers, lessening the pervasiveness of poverty. While there's a short-term adjustment cost that we all admit associated with dismantling trade and investment barriers, the long-term benefits far exceed that cost. India should not only embrace freer trade on a bilateral level, but also on a global one. India should lead to encourage global trade negotiations, not lead to helping them fail. The U.S.-India relationship, we believe, is approaching takeoff. The civil nuclear deal encapsulates its prospects. My colleagues at the Heritage Foundation, particularly our longtime student and expert on Indian affairs, Lisa Curtis, who is with us now, have always been among the foremost proponents of the civil nuclear deal, just specifically for that reason, to tighten our relationship bilaterally, to promote it internationally. The U.S. and India share much in common, a respect for and a commitment to democracy and democratic principles. That growing trading relationship I already mentioned. Interest in improving military-to-military and counterterrorist cooperation. And common geopolitical interests that will strengthen our ties, we believe, in coming years. In Washington, we no longer see India through the South Asia prism, but rather as an emerging global power that can play a significant role in contributing to security and stability in the broader Asia region. There's strong bipartisan support in Washington for building strategic ties with India, and in fact, as I'm sure many of you know, several congressional members have even called the U.S. relationship with India one of the most important in the emerging 21st century. Also propelling our closer ties, frankly, is the growing Indian American population, now numbering almost 2.5 million in the United States. I need not tell all of you that they are among the most prosperous in the United States. But as we reflect on this commonality, it might be worth asking why their prosperity is as it is. Yes, there are several variables involved, educational levels, job opportunities, etc. But I would submit to you that at least part of the reason is because of the economic freedoms found in the United States. A critical finding of our index research, a finding replicated year after year, is that economic freedom leads to prosperity. Again, a general rule. The higher the degree of economic freedom, the larger the economy. The larger the economy, the greater the per capita income of the people. In fact, the average per capita income of the free economies is more than that of the mostly free. More strikingly, free economies enjoy more than 7 times the average per capita income of the mostly unfree and repressed economies. Economic freedom is the key to creating an environment that allows a virtuous cycle of entrepreneurship, innovation, and sustained economic growth to flourish and to prosper.